I need to replace this glass. This was the glass I bought yesterday. This one's cracked right down in this bottom corner from a hailstorm we had, and that's basically letting moisture through. It's also only single pane, and a couple of years ago I put this on just to improve the slope so we wouldn't get water building, like pooling up on the bottom of the window and rotting it. So it's the glass is basically held in there by this, the beading on the sides, and at the very top it goes up into a slot here and has this extra bead, so there's room. I'll probably still be able to, if I get this out okay, I'll be able to reuse it. But if not, I'll have to cut a new piece of beading there. So I'm hoping to be able to get all of this beading off really well. I've got to basically cut through the paint and all the caulking. I've got caulking all around here and underneath. The only part I think that's not caulked is that top section. So I'm going to go and make sure I've got all my tools, get the glass out of the van, and see if I can get it all done. Okay, so tools I'm grabbing to basically get that glass out is, I try to use older tools. I've got this old paint scraper which I just sharpened up so I can cut through the silicone. Pincers for pulling out any nails are there. A couple of other bladed items to be able to get underneath all of the trim to help lift it up. Use old chisels for that sort of stuff so I don't damage stuff too much. Take a file out so in case I've got to re-sharpen some stuff. Good old blade knife, and for when I'm going to put it back in, some good silicone caulk. Now, not sponsored at all, but in my time I've discovered that this 3-in-1 by Sally's is probably the best one that I've used, and I've used it all over the house because it acts as an adhesive for putting that both the glass and the trim back on. It's a perfect sealant for wet areas, so it's really good for windows obviously, and I'll use it behind the glass, then behind the trim, and then around the edges of the trim as a gap sealant as well, which is this gap filling one, and it's paintable with acrylic paints, so it's the best thing. So I've used it on just about all my back windows, no issues at all around it. It's also mold resistant, so it's good for bathrooms and things. So I'll be using that when I'm putting the new glass in, but for right now I've got to go out, take all these things out and try and get those windows out. And I bought these a few years ago when I was doing one of the other windows. Just suctions to basically grab the glass so you don't hurt your fingers. And of course, a pair of safety glasses, especially when you're working around the glass. When it comes to pulling out that glass, I'm going to be wearing these just in case the glass shatters. So here's the piece of glass I bought yesterday. It's just been up in the van. Now this one, if you look at it, it's 2 pieces of glass laminated together, and both pieces are, I think they said, a Class A safety glass, and then the lamination together makes them even stronger. So it's gives a bit more insulation. It's not the same as a double glazed window. The double glazing was a 3mm piece, then a 4mm piece, then a 6mm gap, then a 4mm piece. So you're looking at something that's about 14mm thick, so a little bit over ½ inch, almost 5/8, to go into the window. Now we could have done that. A fully double glazed glass window might have been maybe a bit over 200, so this was 130. At least this will be safe, being that the window goes all the way to the ground. That was pretty easy. That was because that was the old silicone on that one. I've done the outside, but the inside silicone I think is still the original. So you want to try and clean as much of this out as you can. So the side bits were fairly easy. They had some of the old silicone. This one is going to be a bit more effort, because I built it up around the window. We'll start by breaking the seal. So once you get that This was like the sealant layer of silicone. And I want to reuse this, so I've got to be careful. I think this was about at least an inch high. Alright, so an inch and a half, that's how deep this piece is. So I've got to make sure I break the seal of the silicone and the timber between the glass and the timber. That silicone's got some grab. Like I said, I use that 3-in-1 stuff here, so it seals, adheres, works really well. The thing that's going to worry me is that I used it all underneath as well. I had an overhanging lip here, a 1/2 inch overhang. And I know I drove a few nails in through here too, so put these on just in case the glass decides to break on me. Push the pressure. There we go. So you can see I had construction adhesive all along there, because the original windowsill is flat and it just had a tiny bead along here, which was meant to seal everything up, and the water just pooled along here and just rots the windows. So I need to get all these nails out. So I want to reuse this. I want to reuse this piece. If you can see this piece here, I've got it so I milled this up so it went against the glass along here, overlapped with a little bit of a lip so I couldn't get water wicking underneath. So it sticks out just a little bit, as you can see by that. And it just provides a much better slope off for rain and stuff. So I'm going to clean that up. I think my next house will have aluminium windows. Timber frame windows are beautiful, but we had some rain yesterday and these are damp. Timber just soaks up so much of the water, no matter. Like, there's nowhere for water to get in there, but it just soaks it up. might be able to just hear that. You want to pull this off carefully. I haven't used these in a while. That's what I need to be careful of. Be able to reuse that. I think I will. Just got to get those all cleaned up. I'm going to have to put a bit of primer along here, because you can see it from the inside. Okay, so here's the situation. I set my camera up, I pressed record, and then I started talking about what I was doing and went ahead. What I've done, so I'm going to have to explain it now because it didn't record. I ran a bead of silicone all the way around the frame for the glass. Slipped the glass in, pressed it in against the silicone and moved it around to make sure it made a good seal, and that basically got it stuck. I then ran another bead of silicone along the top edge and sealed that up, put my beads up, and I did that using my nail gun with a 25mm exterior nail, and put pressure against the beading to basically push the glass against the frame. I've then done a bead of silicone down the sides here, on both sides, making sure I've got all the silicone in between the glass and the frame so it allows for expansion. Ran my finger down, get that all pressed in. Along the bottom, beading right along the bottom. Some along the bottom part as construction. I then ran another bead just along the glass, just below the top of where this would be, to make another seal. Pressed that in, nailed that in with some 38mm exterior nails, then ran some silicone across there and basically sealed that up. I then came over to grab my other beading so I could do the next step, and that's when I noticed that the camera was turned off. So I'm sorry that you missed all that part, that's why I've just explained it. So now I'm going to put the little side beadings in. I've already put the silicone in there, so it just needs to basically get pushed into that silicone hard up against the glass, nailed in, and then I run some silicone beading around the outside. So let's get that done. Now when you're nailing the beading in, keep some pressure against the beading so it keeps the glass firm. Double check I've got plenty of nails. some beading around all of that. Some silicone, I mean. And you can use the silicone to fill in the nails as well, which I said here. Did you see that? Now a bead of silicone against the glass is important to make sure that no water gets between the glass and the timber. And it's the one that often gets messy. Little finger. Some of those bits had actually spattered out a little bit wide. I'm just using a little razor blade scraper tool. This thing. See. Just to give a bit of a straighter line. Now all I need to do, tiny bit of silicone in my nail holes, just to help reduce them from getting water into them. So there I'm just sealing up timber joints, reducing that chance of water getting in. Apart from the fact that my camera didn't work for when I was putting the glass in, I'm really sorry about that. I mean, you saw me test out the glass with the holders. Basically, once I'd run that silicone in, it was the same thing. I was putting it in, pushing it in. I just lost about 15 minutes worth of time there. So once all that silicone cures, this is paintable. So I can put a good exterior paint over it that was already there. So that's today's DIY job. I still feel really stupid having the camera not record that whole section. If you've got timber windows, it's not a hard job to do. I do have another one to do. That one there also has a big crack across the bottom of it from a hailstorm, being such a tall window. Maybe I'll get that one all filmed. That'll be more exciting because I'll be up a ladder. Unless I can get a hold of a mate who owns a scaffolding which I've used here before when I was painting. So we'll see how that goes.